Joining us now, I believe, is a member of the task force. She is the Republican Congresswoman from the Tampa area, Congresswoman Laurel Lee. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us tonight. I believe we have you hooked up right now. Can you hear me, Congresswoman?
I sure can.
Hi, thanks for being here with us. So you are investigating the Butler, Pennsylvania incident. And here we are again, obviously much different circumstances. But what comes next from your committee, Congresswoman, which I should note to our audience is made up of Republicans and Democrats. What comes next from your committee in light of what we are learning of today?
Well, I'll start by saying, of course, we're all just so glad that President Trump is safe tonight. And you are correct. Our task force is a bipartisan group of lawmakers, and we were tasked with investigating what happened, what the failures were at the Butler rally. And, you know, that is an incident which is crystal clear, should never have happened. We spent a lot of time looking at the planning of that event, the preparation, the execution, and the many mistakes that were made and things that went wrong that led to that man getting up on that roof and, shooting at President Trump. And so that has been what we are looking on so far. Part of that includes analyzing the Secret Service, what they're doing, how they're training officers, how they could have gotten to that day. But that we're now here such a short time later with a second attempt on President Trump's life is absolutely shocking. And it is time for President Trump to have an adequate level of security, which even though today—
Does he not have an adequate level of security?
Well, clearly not. And the agents who are with him today were able to act quickly and decisively and neutralize this threat, thank goodness. But it is obvious that the threat level environment against President Trump is very significant, and there needs to be a full, complete, and total level of security. And this administration needs to come out and say that and make it a priority. So really two things. One is your status as a protectee. Are you a president? Are you a candidate? Are you a member of Congress? But the second is the actual threat environment. And we certainly don't need any more evidence that the actual threat environment for President Trump is so high that he should be getting the same full force and protection as a protectee of the Secret Service, as does President Biden or Vice President Harris at this point.
Do you have faith in Ronald Rowe, who is now the acting head of the Secret Service?
Director Rowe, I believe, has worked very hard to be more transparent with Congress. In the initial days after the Butler event, we were getting lack of information. We were getting stonewalled. Secret Service, it was even pushing attention toward local law enforcement. And I think there's been a real shift in the approach to Congress since Director Rowe took over. He has been providing us documents. He's been very, I believe, open with us about the things that we have asked him so far. That being said, we have a long way to go in understanding the motives and the background of the Butler shooter, and certainly what happened here today. There need to be not just a breakdown of these events and the failures that led to these threats being able to get this close to President Trump, but also a strategic analysis of how we ensure Secret Service is capable, has the agents, has the resources, has the strategic planning and training to be able to execute their job effectively.
So I could probably come up with a list of a few hundred questions that I have, Congresswoman, but we obviously don't have the time to tick through them all. But you have access to information that the general public does not, at least at this point in time, because you are on that bipartisan task force, right? So you have a better picture of the Secret Service. You have a better picture of maybe they should be doing this, maybe they should be doing that. What is, Congresswoman, your biggest question tonight about this incident, given what you've learned, given what you know from the last, month or so of being on this task force? What's your biggest question tonight?
My biggest question for Secret Service would be, what has changed since Butler? How have the resources increased? how many more agents were with President Trump, how was the perimeter decided. I want to ensure that we are not seeing a revisiting of the same mistakes that we saw at Butler. And most importantly, what is the plan going forward? Because clearly we're seeing an incredibly dangerous
Do you not have those
right
answers? It would seem crazy to me that after Butler, you don't have those basic answers.
We do understand that they've increased the agents, they've increased the assignment, but what were they doing today? You know, we know what went wrong at Butler. What were they doing today to plan for this outing? Who was where? What was the perimeter? What were they doing today? I want to understand fully and have confidence that they've corrected for the mistakes that they made last time and that those weren't re-executed again here today. And going forward, whatever the status is now, clearly it needs to be elevated, and President Trump needs to have, and we need President Biden and Vice President Harris to come out and say this to Secret Service, to the Department of Justice, to the FBI, that they need to put the absolute full force, highest level of security and protection around President Trump going forward.
Let me ask you this. The Secret Service director is temporary. It's an interim. Does the task force believe that a permanent director, someone else, needs to be put in place?
You know, I think for now, he has been responsive to us. He's getting us the information he needs. Certainly, I think the agency ultimately needs continuity and leadership at the top.
But you know, Congresswoman, I think, I understand why you want the information. And in Washington, that's obviously a big deal, right? You're a member of Congress. You're a member of a task force. You deserve the information. I get it. I understand it. But I think there would be some folks at home who might listen to that and say, wait a minute, it doesn't matter if Congress is getting the information or not. We need the Republican nominee for president to be safe. We need every former president to be safe. And that's clearly a big question mark right now.
Well, and that's exactly what I'm saying, is that when I talk about President Biden, Vice President Harris, the entirety of government needs to be crystal clear right now that our federal law enforcement agencies, FBI, Secret Service, the Department of Justice, need to be treating him with a presidential level of security, because the security that's assigned to him to this point clearly is not adequate. We've had two very, very atrocious attempts on his life in a short span of time. So what's happening right now is inadequate. There needs to be a clear acceptance of what the elevated threat environment is, and the security needs to be second to none. He needs all of the resources that are available to him assigned immediately. The point of the information is transparency for not just Congress, for the American people, because they need to have confidence that what Secret Service is doing, what FBI is doing, what the Department of Justice is doing is being shared with them, and that it's being handled appropriately. But as far as what we wake up tomorrow and do, absolutely, what we wake up tomorrow and do needs to be an exceedingly heightened level of security surrounding President Trump everywhere he goes.
Last question for you, Congresswoman. I asked Mick what was the question he would ask, and it involved around making sure that the SOP, the standard operating procedure, was followed afterwards, I believe. Mick wanted to know, do you believe that was the case?
Well, look, this just happened today, so we don't have that information yet from Secret Service or the local law enforcement who were there. That is what I do think they made a very important first step by immediately coming out and having a press conference and sharing with us what they did know. And you can bet when Congress returns to Washington, D.C. tomorrow and the next day that those are the questions that we're going to be asking.
Congresswoman Laurel Lee, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Republican from the Southwest Florida area, Tampa area, and a member of the bipartisan task force looking into the first assassination attempt. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us here on NewsNation tonight. We appreciate it.